The Dark Scrolls. Hello, my night owls. Welcome back to the Dark Scrolls, where time loses its edges and the quiet corners of history open just wide enough for us to slip through. Before we begin tonight's descent into the soft, cold heart of 19th century America, take a moment to settle yourself. Dim the lights. Let your room grow quiet. And tell me, what time is it where you are listening from? And which corner of the world do your footsteps call home? I read every comment. It's strangely comforting knowing that across oceans and time zones, you and I share this silence together. If this kind of slow, heavy, snow-covered storytelling feels like home to you, you can tap like or subscribe. But only if you truly want to wander the dark with me again. Now, breathe in once. Let your shoulders drop. And follow me into the century where the world moved slower, where winter pressed its weight against wooden walls, and where Christmas was less a celebration and more a fragile flame people protected against the deep cold. Tonight, we walk into the 1800s. Snow falls before you like sifted flour, gathering in soft layers at your feet. The world is pale and still. Every sound is cushioned, softened, absorbed by winter's endless patience. You stand at the very edge of early century America, a place that feels untouched by hurry, untouched by electricity, untouched by anything that makes our world feel loud. Here, the cold is a living thing. It presses gently against your cheeks, steals warmth from your fingertips, and settles into your bones until your breath grows slow and deliberate. The land around you stretches in long, quiet folds. Deep forests with branches draped in frost, frozen rivers glinting like sheets of hammered glass, farmlands lying still beneath blankets of snow. The first crunch of your boots breaks the silence. It is a small sound, but it feels enormous in the hush of this century. Somewhere far away, a single horse trots along a frozen road, sharp, rhythmic, lonely. Its echo fades into the trees like a memory half forgotten. Ahead of you stands a small homestead, barely more than a cabin with smoke curling from its chimney in thin, determined lines. Windows glow with a faint amber warmth. Not bright, not bold, just enough to say, someone is alive in there, trying their best to stay warm. You push the gate open. Snow leans heavily against it, weighing it down as though winter itself wants you to enter slowly. The porch creaks beneath your boots. 2 apples sit abandoned near the door, frozen hard as stone. Families in harsh winters sometimes used the world outside as a free icebox, trusting that animals wouldn't steal their food before morning. You glance at the apples and wonder which creature, fox, raccoon, or desperate bird, made note of this little treasure and planned to return for it under moonlight. The wooden door opens with a long, aching sigh. Warmth greets you, but it is thin, barely more than a suggestion. Inside, this home survives on a single fireplace. The flames burn low, stingy, flickering weakly as if trying to stretch themselves over too much cold. You step inside. Everything smells of wood smoke, wool, dried herbs, and the faint sweetness of beeswax candles. The house is small, its rooms stitched together by necessity rather than comfort. A rocking chair stands angled toward the hearth, placed exactly where heat can reach it. Stockings made from leftover fabric lie folded on a table. A pot, hangs above the fire, steaming gently with the scent of root vegetables and salted pork. You touch the edge of a braided rug, soft and worn. Built from old garments and scraps, woven into something warm because winter demanded it. You feel the past quietly pressing against your fingertips. A staircase creaks overhead, slow, old, purposeful. Someone is moving there. Their footfalls make the beams groan in a familiar language between wood and winter. You pause by the table. A candle burns in a tin holder. Wax drips in frozen waterfalls down its side. You lift a worn, cloth-bound book, one of maybe 2 or 3 this family owns, its cover soft from countless hands. You imagine evenings spent reading by this small flame, children squinting at letters while the wind claws at the shutters. The century around you feels honest, fragile, resilient. And so you step deeper inside. A woman kneads dough in the kitchen, her hands moving with steady, practiced rhythm. Each press of her palms releases a tiny puff of flour into the firelight. Bread is not abundance here. Bread is survival. A kettle simmers near the hearth, chamomile or mint gathered months ago, dried in bunches, saved for winter nights exactly like this. A child rushes past you, cheeks pink from cold, clutching a marble or chestnut found outside. They giggle, their wool stockings sagging around their ankles. In a world without screens, a single small treasure could ignite whole hours of imagination. On a shelf nearby rests a dried orange slice threaded with string, carried from older customs, adapted to new soil. Its scent lingers faintly, citrus mixed with thyme. A tin cookie mold sits beside it, carved with simple designs. Historians like to debate whether these molds were practical tools or small luxuries brought from Europe. But the truth feels simpler. In long winters, shaping dough into stars or birds made children smile. And that alone was reason enough. You touch the mold. It is cold but hopeful. Someone opens the root cellar door. A cold breath rises to meet you. Potatoes, beets, carrots, onions, sleeping in baskets beneath the earth's chilled spine. Stored months earlier when the ground was still warm. Every meal tonight was prepared long before winter arrived. In this century, survival is a year-long act of preparation. You breathe in the scent of cooking, wood smoke, wool, and cold air creeping under the doorframe. This home is small, but it is full of labor, full of effort, full of quiet love, tucked into the corners like folded quilts. You step outside again. The cold bites your skin immediately, sharp, metallic, awake. The world has changed while you were inside. Snow falls thicker, softer. The wind carries a sound like distant bells, though it might just be ice shifting along the eaves. You cross the yard to a barn, its wooden siding patched with countless repairs. Inside, animals breathe clouds of warmth into the dark. Their calm presence feels ancient, grounding. In many homes of this era, animals were the closest thing to a weather forecast. If they were restless, storms approached. If they were calm, the night would be steady. You run your glove along the wooden railing. The texture is rough and familiar. Hands have steadied themselves here for generations. Beyond the barn lies the second homestead of your journey. You walk toward its dimly glowing window, your boots crunching in a steady, rhythmic beat. Inside, someone stirs a pot. Warm light pools through the glass. You enter and find another home built of necessity, shaped by weather, softened by exhaustion. A woman grates nutmeg over a bowl. A man sands a piece of wood into a toy whistle for his younger sister. Children peel potatoes, their fingers slow and clumsy, but earnest. A jar of pickled cabbage glows pink beside the fire. Everything hums with quiet purpose. You sit near the hearth as someone tunes a fiddle. The notes wobble, searching for their voice. Then the kitchen settles again into soft, glowing comfort. Outside, wind sweeps across the land. Inside, time folds gently inward. This is Christmas here. Not spectacle, not abundance, but warmth pulled from scarcity and hope stitched together by hand. You rise, step back into the night, and continue your long walk across the century. The air deepens around you, colder, heavier, quieter. A forest looms ahead, its branches heavy with frost. Children of this era often ran through these woods to find Christmas greenery, sprigs of pine, boughs of cedar, small trees light enough to pull home on sleds. You follow their footsteps into the trees. The forest is a cathedral of silence, a hush so complete it almost rings. The scent of pine is sharp, sweet, ancient. You place a hand on a branch. Needles prick gently. Resin clings to your glove. Families once coated branches in beaten egg white and sugar to mimic frost, so candles would glimmer as though the tree had brought winter indoors with it. You tilt your head, imagining it. A small parlor glowing with firelight, a tree shimmering like a star that wandered too close to earth. An axe strikes a trunk somewhere nearby. The sound echoes through the woods, slow, steady, rhythmic. Snow falls from branches with each thud. The tree falls softly, like something surrendering to sleep. You help drag it across snow, the branches brushing your cheek like cold feathers. This journey, this small, icy pilgrimage, was once a part of every winter. You feel its weight, its effort, its quiet magic. And with that tree trailing behind you, you head back toward the glow of the next home, toward the next flicker of warmth in this long, cold century. The tree drags softly behind you, its branches whispering over the snow like a broom sweeping old memories into neat lines. Your breath rises in pale clouds, and the cold settles into your bones, the way the century settles into your steps. Slowly, steadily, without asking permission. Ahead, the land dips toward a town still half asleep under winter's heavy hand. Lanterns glow in faint yellow halos along the road. A distant dog barks once. Then silence folds back over the world like a blanket smoothed by an unseen hand. You reach the first buildings, small shops, shuttered houses, a forge glowing red against the dark, the hiss of iron, the rhythmic hammer. It spills warmth into the street. You step inside. Heat presses gently against your face, rich, smoky, metallic. Inside, the blacksmith wipes sweat from his brow, though the world outside freezes around him. He shapes a shoe for a restless horse waiting outside. The sparks leap and scatter across the floor like tiny, frantic stars. For a moment, you simply stand there, letting the forge thaw the edges of your breath. Then you step back into the street, carrying that brief warmth like a hidden ember under your coat. The town opens wider around you. Stalls line the square, their canvas awnings weighted with snow. Merchants call out soft greetings, voices overlapping in gentle waves. Thread candles, dried fruit ribboned like winter sunlight, tin ornaments shaped like stars, hearts, birds, animals. Lanterns sway overhead, creating circles of gold in the falling snow. You drift through the crowd, absorbing the accents of immigrants weaving themselves into the fabric of America. Irish lilt, German roundness, Scottish grit, English calm. Voices blending like the threads of a tapestry. A woman beside you picks up a tin ornament, her smile soft as she turns it in the lantern light. She tells you her parents came from Germany years ago, bringing with them the custom of candles on pine branches. Always afraid of the fire, she laughs quietly. The vendor laughs too. Tin ornaments reflect the glow, he explains, so fewer candles are needed. Little details like this, tiny adjustments to old traditions, shape a new world. Nearby, a charity table ladles soup to those who can't afford a meal. Children gather around a man reading aloud from a newspaper, the day's news traveling not by broadcast, but voice to ear, ear to neighbor, neighbor to street. Snow begins again, soft, silent, glowing. It drifts through lamplight like falling feathers, and for a breath, the town holds still. You walk slowly, letting the hush settle over your shoulders like a shawl. As the snowfall deepens, you slip into a quieter district. Houses lean closer to one another here, sharing warmth through thin wooden walls. Snow on the roofs softens the world, dulling familiar edges. You follow footprints to a small church whose bell tower pierces the pale sky. A warm amber glow spills through the cracks of its door. Inside, silence. A gentle, sacred hush. Dozens of beeswax candles flicker in iron holders. Their golden light pools across wooden pews, worn smooth by decades of winter coats and weary hands. Evergreen boughs hang undecorated along the walls, symbols of endurance in a season that tests every living thing. The pastor greets the congregation quietly. Children fidget. An older woman smooths her hymnal with trembling fingers. Someone near you exhales, their breath still faintly visible. The choir begins, 5 voices weaving a simple, unembellished harmony. The notes tremble at first, then grow steady, like soft light rising behind clouds. The music fills the room, not loud, not grand, but honest, human, worn by life, yet still willing to sing. A teenage boy reads from a page that shakes in his hands. His voice cracks. The congregation smiles. These moments mattered, speaking aloud, finding courage, joining the rhythm of a community. A draft slips in as someone opens the window to release the growing heat. Cold brushes past your neck. It carries the smell of pine, beeswax, wool drying near the stove. During a hymn, families rise slowly, rustling skirts, mittens brushing wood, boots shifting. Their voices rise imperfectly, beautifully. It is the kind of sound that makes you feel the century breathing. When the service ends, people linger, their warmth gathering in small clusters of conversation. Someone pockets a gift apple from the pulpit. Someone adjusts a child's scarf. Someone shares news of a neighbor's illness. Outside, lantern light crowns the snow in pale halos. Families walk ahead, their boots crunching in a steady rhythm. Christmas morning in this world does not begin with gifts, but with candlelight, quiet voices, and the soft reminder that even in the coldest months, people still find ways to bring warmth into a room. Chickens scratch at frozen earth. A cow exhales mist into the cold. The barn smells of hay, damp earth, and animal warmth. A man in a patched wool coat pours grain into troughs. A woman lays down fresh straw for bedding. A boy hauls a stack of firewood taller than he is. A girl peels apples into a small, sweet spiral. Work does not stop on Christmas. Winter does not negotiate. Livestock does not wait. Families of this era lived with that truth pressed into their bones. Inside, the kitchen fills with the scent of potatoes simmering in soup. The woman hums as she stirs, a quiet act of warmth threaded through labor. A child sorts dried apple slices. Another sweeps pine needles across the floor. Tiny tasks that leave them proud, woven gently into the family's survival. The father sharpens an axe in the woodshed, a winter ritual carried through generations. Outside, a teenage boy shovels ice off the walkway. His breath rises in sharp bursts. The path must stay clear. One slip could mean injury, and injury means danger. Neighbors wave across the yard. The older man struggles with a flour sack. The boy runs to help him. Mutual aid was not a moral suggestion here. It was a necessity. The family gathers for a simple meal: root soup, biscuits, rehydrated apples. Their talk drifts from weather to animals to plans for the evening. Chores and celebration flow together without boundary. After the meal, the father checks the fences before sundown. A small dried apple slice tied to a post sways in the wind, a charm, a superstition, a leftover from last year's trouble with foxes. Meaning shifts in a place like this. Objects wear stories like thin coats, changing shape each winter. As evening leans across the sky, lavender shadows stretch long over the snow. You walk with him back to the house, where warmth waits, thin, humble, sincere. Christmas here is not grand. It is a soft promise woven through labor. Warmth persists, even when everything else asks for more than you can give. Night has settled fully by the time you leave the farmhouse behind. The world narrows into shades of blue and black. Snow hushes every sound until even your breath feels too loud. Windows around you glow like floating embers, each one a small universe of warmth holding back the darkness. But as you walk, the truth sharpens. Not every ember burns with the same strength. Christmas in this century is not equal. Wealth and scarcity walk the same streets, separated only by walls thin as frost. You turn onto a lane where the first home gleams with golden light. Through the frosted window, you see abundance laid out like a quiet boast. A table heavy with roasted meats, sugared apples, cranberries, biscuits brushed with butter, white flour loaves saved for special nights. Candied citrus gleams like captured sunlight. A towering cake dusted with powdered sugar rises like a snow-capped mountain. Children in polished boots chase each other around the parlor. Laughter spills freely, unburdened by chores. Servants refill plates. A piano plays a careful melody, each note crisp, practiced, proud. For families like this, Christmas was both celebration and display. A chance to remind themselves and others of prosperity earned, inherited, or defended. You move on. Just around the corner, another home leans under the weight of snow. Its windows flicker weakly, candles burning low to conserve wax. Inside, a simple pot of vegetable stew sits at the center of the table. A loaf of coarse bread, 2 apples that have been saved for weeks. A pie made from dried fruit, small but precious. The mother divides stew into careful portions. 2 children clutch thin shawls around their shoulders. Their boots, patched and too small, rest beside the fire. And yet their eyes shine at the sight of the pie cooling in the window. The same hope, the same joy, simply shaped by smaller things. A knock at the door. An elderly neighbor appears with a warm loaf wrapped in cloth. "Made extra," she says, though you sense she rationed as carefully as anyone. Kindness like this appears over and over in letters of the era. When wealth was scarce, generosity was not. You leave the doorstep, the snow soft around your boots. In an alley, children huddle near a small fire, sharing a single stick of peppermint. They break it into tiny pieces, each one a treasure. Candy was rare for the poor. Sometimes they received 1 piece for the entire holiday. Farther on, men unload crates at a warehouse, still working even on Christmas night. Factories didn't close, shift bells didn't soften, winter didn't pause. After the shift ends, workers exchange tiny gifts: a knitted glove, a polished stone, a tin cup repaired carefully. Everything is small. Everything is meaningful. Across the street, a wealthy carriage pulls up, lanterns glowing bright. Passengers wrapped in fur step lightly into the snow. They walk with cheerful ease toward a friend's home for supper. Meanwhile, a man carrying a coal scuttle pauses to watch. His coat thin, his gloves frayed. He adjusts the scuttle and continues, knowing every lump must last through the night. The contrast is sharp enough to slice the evening in 2. You drift toward the poorer quarter, where homes press together like people huddling for warmth. Inside one house, a family eats broth and bread. A single candle burns on the table. Yet joy flickers here too, soft, stubborn. The father unfolds a handmade drawing his child created using scraps of charcoal. The mother smooths the paper with her thumb, as though touching something sacred. Just a few streets away, the wealthiest mansion gleams with dozens of candles. Servants hang holly. Guests remove gloves and furs. A harpist plays near the fire. Journal observers of the era often noted the unease some wealthy families felt at Christmas, the tug between abundance and the suffering outside their walls. Some donated baskets, some prayed, some insisted prosperity was divine favor. You step back into the cold, exhaling slowly. Across the town, rich or poor, the same small sounds echo. Dishes clinking, fires hissing, voices murmuring stories. And then you hear singing. A group of women gathered in a narrow alley warm their hands around a shared bowl of broth. One pulls a candle from her shawl, lights it, and places it between them. "It's our custom to make a wish for the year," she whispers. The flame burns steady, against wind, against cold, against everything. You stand with them a moment, letting that single trembling light anchor the dark. You walk away from town, snow rising around your boots as if trying to hold you in place. Beyond the last row of houses lies a field, empty, wide, moonlit. And then you see them. Tents, rows of them, canvas stiff with frost, lantern smoke rising in thin, shivering threads. A military encampment. Christmas takes a different shape here, colder, thinner, but somehow deeper. You step closer, the wind carrying the smell of wood smoke, damp wool, and fatigue. Inside a circle of soldiers, a weak fire crackles. You're invited to an overturned crate, a seat among men far from home. Food is scarce, luxuries nearly non-existent. Tonight they share a biscuit, a sliver of dried apple, a handful of peanuts sent from home. Each offering feels heavy with meaning. A young soldier unwraps a soft, many-folded letter. He reads aloud a line about his sisters decorating a tree far away. The group goes quiet, each man disappearing into his own memory. Someone brings thin stew. They eat slowly, making the warmth last. A soldier describes lantern parades from his hometown. Another recalls staying up late singing hymns. Stories move around the fire like migrating birds, bridging miles, stitching hearts together. Then, a distant drumbeat. The men look up. The night freezes. Silence returns, but the reminder lingers. Peace is fragile here. A soldier opens a small wooden box. Inside, gifts from home. Knitted socks, candies, a tiny book of psalms, a wooden bird carved from walnut. He holds it as though it is life itself. Another man tells of a Christmas long ago when opposing forces paused for one night, unplanned, unspoken, and sang the same hymn across a river. Historians still debate how often these moments happened, but around this fire the memory feels real, warm as breath in cold air. Someone begins humming a tune. Others join. Voices waver with exhaustion, but do not break. When the song ends, they play cards. They laugh, quiet, weary, sincere. Two soldiers sit apart, one writing a letter by lantern glow. Letters were lifelines in this world. Confessions, promises, hopes scratched onto paper thin as faith. As the fire lowers, a man pulls from his coat a tin star ornament, uneven, handmade. A gift from his little brother, a charm, a reminder. A gust of wind rattles the tents, snow swirls. A soldier rises for watch duty. His footsteps fade into the dark. You stand slowly. One man lifts his tin cup in farewell. The fire shrinks behind you until it becomes a single ember in an ocean of dark. Ahead, the land rises softly. The sounds of war fade behind you. The air shifts again, warmer, more human. Soon you see houses clustered together, their windows glowing with different colors, different shapes of Christmas. Immigrant neighborhoods, a mosaic of cultures carrying entire worlds across oceans. A German family's tree burns with candlelight, branches dotted with silvered nuts and delicate ornaments. The room glows like a small universe on fire. Down the street, an Irish family sings lively songs, Their loaf of balm brack sits studded with dried fruit, each hidden trinket predicting luck for the coming year. An Italian household gathers around a long table of fish, herbs, and pastries. Voices rise and fall like waves. Stories dance in the air. Scandinavian families hang straw stars. English homes recite old verses. African American communities, free and enslaved, blend ancestral memory with Christian ritual, carving out small pockets of connection, even in hardship. In one yard, a group sings a spiritual around a fire, voices rising into the night with a depth that makes you still. Traditions collide, intertwine, transform. Children from every background build snow figures together, decorating them with scraps of ribbon, pine needles, tiny treasures. They laugh in accents shaped by both old worlds and new ones. Inside a gathering hall, families exchange stories: Norwegian, New England, Caribbean, Scottish. Songs overlap, customs blend. A new kind of American Christmas takes shape in real time. And when someone begins a tune on a small instrument, others join, their voices weaving a harmony that belongs to no single place and to every place at once. When you step back into the snow, you feel the century breathing, ever changing, ever collecting, ever becoming. Night folds itself gently around you as you continue walking. The immigrant neighborhoods fading softly behind, like lanterns drifting down a long river. Snow hushes the earth into stillness. Even the wind seems to step lightly now, as though unwilling to disturb the final hours of Christmas night. Ahead, a single window glows with the faint, steady warmth of a home settling towards sleep. You move closer. Inside, the room flickers with the last strength of a fire, embers pulsing like a slow, red heartbeat beneath a veil of settling ash. The Christmas tree in the corner is small, humble, fragrant with its forest scent. The candles have long since been extinguished for safety, leaving only the ghostly spark of berry strings and popcorn garlands catching the ember light. You step into the room quietly, letting its warmth settle over you like a shawl placed gently around your shoulders. The family's movements have slowed, softened. Voices drift no louder than breath. The century itself feels tired, ready to lay itself down. A woman sits near the window in a rocking chair, knitting the final rows of a scarf. Her needles click with a slow, soothing rhythm, a lullaby made of tin and wool, weaving memory into thread. She hums without realizing it. The melody is old, older than the room, older than the century. Something passed down across winters like a folded note hidden in a coat pocket. Nearby, a man closes a worn book of poetry. He's been reading aloud, verses about home, winter lamps, the quiet ache of long journeys. He places the book down with a tenderness usually reserved for sleeping children. Two little ones lie curled on a woven rug, faces flushed from the fire's warmth. Tiny toys still held loosely in their hands. A painted wooden horse, a soft cloth doll rocked into dreaming. Gifts carved and stitched at home, holding the warmth of familiar hands more surely than anything bought with money. You glance around. A quilt, stitched from scraps of old garments, covers their small bodies. It smells faintly of summer lavender, stored in chests to keep moths away. Every square of fabric carries a memory: a dress worn thin, a shirt patched twice, a sleeve saved from a garment too worn to repair. This century wastes nothing. Even scraps become stories. An elderly neighbor sits in the rocking chair now, telling a soft story about her childhood Christmas. A stone house, a mother placing a single candle in the window as a sign of welcome. Some say the tradition came from old European custom. Some say it grew here on American soil. As with most winter rituals, the truth is gentle and blurred, like breath on a frosted pane. You watch the children fight sleep, their eyes fluttering, trying to stay open for one more story. But sleep is already smoothing their faces into quiet. The mother ties off the last stitch in the scarf. She folds it with slow care, as though preserving the memory of this room inside the fabric. Then she rises, draping a heavier quilt over the children. Her touch is soft, steady, practiced, a mother's choreography across centuries. The father steps outside to check the weather. When he returns, snow dusts his coat like powdered sugar. He reports a gentle snowfall, flakes drifting slow and steady, as if the sky itself is preparing to sleep. He places his hat on its peg. The door closes with a sigh. A teenage girl lights a small oil lamp on the shelf. She adjusts the wick until the flame glows amber and soft, casting wavering shadows across the walls like slow-moving ghosts. Oil lamps were the heartbeat of winter nights, their glow guiding families from labor into rest. The girl opens a wooden keepsake box filled with fragments from Christmases long past. A dried flower from a wreath, a ribbon from a long-ago gift, a page of handwriting from her grandmother, a scrap of embroidered cloth stitched with tiny stars. She lifts each object with quiet reverence, turning them gently in the lamplight. None of these things appear in history books, but they survive in attics, in trunks, in memory boxes, the small archaeology of human life. As she returns the treasures to the box, the fire settles into its final glow. Someone begins humming a lullaby, so slow, so soft, that even the air seems to lean closer to hear it. The melody drifts around the room like warm smoke, touching every corner, inviting the world to release its weight. You sit in the quiet and feel the centuries soften. The heavy labor of the day dissolves, footsteps fade, breath slows. It is the final hour of Christmas in the 1800s. Not loud, not grand, not polished, just warm, just human, just enough. You rise carefully, not disturbing the sleeping children. The family nods to you with gentle eyes, their faces glowing in the low firelight. You step outside. Cold wraps around you in a slow, soft embrace. Snow drifts down in delicate, drifting spirals. Chimneys release thin ribbons of smoke into the dark. The world feels washed in silver, quiet, unhurried. Every window glows faintly, some bright, some dim, but each one beating with the same quiet hope that warmth can be made from almost nothing, that kindness can survive scarcity, that winter, no matter how deep, is only winter, and spring waits beyond it. You stand beneath the falling snow, letting it gather on your coat, your shoulders, your lashes. The lights behind you glow like distant embers, fading slowly into memory. You breathe in, deep, calm, steady, as if inhaling the entire quiet century. The snowflakes fall slower now, as though they too are drifting toward sleep. Your footsteps slow, your breath softens. The world exhales, and so do you. This is the end of the journey, the soft closing of a long, winter-worn day. But here in the quiet dark, know this: you walked through a century tonight, and it walked through you, leaving its lantern glow in the chambers of your memory. And now, my night owl, if your eyes are heavy, let them rest. If your mind is softening at the edges, let it drift. And if sleep is waiting just outside your window, invite it in. Before you go, tell me in the comments, what time is it where you're watching from? And where in the world are you listening tonight? If you want more journeys through the dim corners of forgotten centuries, you already know what to do. Like, subscribe, but only if you truly want to walk these shadowed roads with me again. For now, good night, and may the quiet of this old winter follow you gently into sleep. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.